and it's even extending. It's even extending as it were. That makes it very serious region that must not be left with a serious problem or issues as they are now unfolding. So the Sahel region, so generally you now see that it moves from the Maghreb states and stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Horn of Africa, even the Indian Ocean. So, and this takes more than 10 million square meters, and it's rich in minerals, which external powers sought to exploit. But some are doing it in different ways, causing a lot of problems within that region. So, though resource rich, and the region's inhabitants, apart from Algeria to an extent, are extremely poor. During the last 2 decades, the Sahel has been perceived as a potent security threat due primarily to the inability of the Sahelian states to control a lot of their areas, particularly the rural areas, the hinterlands, the extended places, and many other ungoverned spaces. This immense region has porous borders, which historically have been crossed at will by tradesmen, unknown migrants, traffickers of drugs, arms, and even humans. So they move through even Mauritania now. They've passed through the Mediterranean Sea, crossing into Europe, doing a lot of things, into Spain, into other places, even Italy, and many other places. So it is also a zone of interaction between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, in which multifaceted human, financial, and religious exchanges take place. Today, the region is characterized by a demographic explosion, terrorism, conflicts, instability, and recently now resurgence of coups, as well as drugs and human trafficking, and more importantly, disinformation and misinformation, which have given birth to so many challenges and issues as we are doing now. The region is also suffering from the impact of climate change, generating in rural areas increased incidences of drought, flooding, erosion, which has threatened their major livelihoods, agriculture, and it has also led to dislodgements. And the demographic trend with the current Sahelian population of the G5, they are put at more than 80 million, and it's being put together to say in the nearest future, this by mid-2050s, the population will reach 200 million, and this will intensify the dangers ahead. So the Sahel region is in free fall now. So millions of people need humanitarian assistance. And in recent times, about 7 coups have occurred since 2020. Jihadists and militias are killing thousands. Security forces, including US military bases and Russian mercenaries, abuse civilians with impunity. Those schools, if you look at it now, coming back down to the Sahel here, where Hindu was trying to classify it into the upper and the lower Sahel. Some now, even in the literature, we use the word Greater Sahel and Sahel below here, so which comes to this thing. But at the heart of the Sahel is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Even presently, as we are talking here, Islamic states in Mauritania have taken over, or they are already eating deep into northern Mauritania. So Mauritania is another keg of gunpowder waiting to seriously explode. And all of that place must be looked into before it turns to another Burkina Faso or Mali, or even recently now, the situation we are having in Niger. Describing media and information dynamics at the national level or even among the countries in the Sahel can be formidable. It's formidable that you will see a lot of things, even Papa mentioned the way and the way the information has been passed in different ways. And despite that, it is evil, despite that, it is horrible, it is bad things, there are misinforming or that is coming from the malinformation, the information is so formidable and so effective because one wonders how it gets to the people, to the citizens. So we wonder how it gets to them, and that is how formidable this is. So the Sahel is also a semi-arid region that presents a lot of array of geopolitical, environmental, and socio-economic concerns. The preventive action in 2024 reported recently that in decades, Sahel region has encountered escalating security challenges, including emergence of extremist groups, challenging the state authorities, political instability and humanitarian crisis, exacerbated by the proliferation of media products and the intricate interrelations among them. So in addition to these issues, the importance of the information has grown in influencing public opinion, even influencing the government and influencing the conflict dynamics. The conflict dynamics and in which way it should go or how do we go about this. The Sahel region countries are significantly impacted by externally produced media that are frequently available locally for about a decade now. And these external outputs significantly influence the global comprehension of the region's concerns. This knowledge significantly influences the sources chosen for monitoring the Sahel region. So we are discussing a media ecosystem founded on intricate and delicate trust connections with many epistemic sources, with a nuanced comprehension of the media landscape marked by practices of reappropriation and information dissemination. The media networks in the Sahel were inherently decentralized, characterized by rumors and orality prior to the advent of the internet, and the significance of local radio stations through the region is evident today. So comprehending this intricate world necessitates an analysis of media applications, the messages they communicate, the sources they employ, the process of content interpretation, and the socio-political ramifications of the content in question. So the information environment now in the Sahel denotes the intricate landscape where these diverse entities utilize media and communication instruments to sway the public, advance their goals, and exert control, as we are seeing now. Because if you look at the Indu mentioned in the question and answer session earlier after the first paper, during the protests in October in Nigeria, people were not even alarmed. Nigerians and the government were not alarmed by the protest. But what alarmed them was the flying of the Russian flag in Kano, in Kaduna, and that became a very serious issue. I also spoke on the media. I was invited to speak on the media, and I said, I don't want to talk about Russian flag being hoisted and all of that. What I know is that Nigeria shares the longest border with Niger. That Nigerian border covers 7 northern states in Nigeria. 7 northern states. So it's a very long border. The border is not long alone, it's also very porous. Very porous. And by so doing, it has strategic implications for Nigeria's stability, particularly a country that was now undergoing some political rearrangements. We just had election, certain contentions, certain things going on even in the country. So we cannot, or Nigeria cannot be able to tolerate external interference like that of Russia in it. And the Russian ambassador to Nigeria was invited. I was also at the meeting representing my organization, where he said that Russia has no interest in Nigeria's political issues or anything. We don't know about how the flags were being hoisted or being used around. In fact, what Hindu didn't go down to say that they went straight and they discovered that there are tailors who sold these Russian flags. They arrested all of them. The security agents were able to arrest Those they even arrested. Where did you get the piece of clothes to sew these flags from? All of them were arrested. All of them were arrested. So this study examines okay. So comprehending the significance of information is essential for understanding the construction of narratives during periods of conflict, governance crisis, and societal upheaval. Diverse entities such as the governments, the rebel factions, international organizations, media institutions, and civil society groups vie for dominance in the information sphere. In other words, each of these entities employs distinct methods, objectives regarding their utilization of information, ranging from the state-controlled media to digital platforms, and from propaganda to fact-checking. And so this study examines the utilization of these various means and ends to attain strategic objectives, including the acquisition of legitimacy, the recruitment of fighters or followers, and the influence it has or the international perceptions of the issues happening there. So now, who are the key actors in the information environment? The first key actor, they are the national governments. They are the national governments in the information environment. So whether the information is now true but wrongly sent, or the information is malinformation, which is not true and at the same time harmful, the government is one of the key actors. Governments in the Sahel, such as those in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Chad, more importantly, are pivotal in influencing the region's information landscape. And state actors employ diverse communication channels, such as state-run media, official declarations, and strategic communication campaigns to sustain dominance over public land. Prior to coups in Mali in 2020, insurgent groups, terrorist groups, warring groups, all of them will come out with different information attacking the government, attacking the problems of the people, creating more division between the people and the government, widening the gaps between the government and the people in order to create more tension and making the state more fragile and tension-filled. So within this fragility, within this vulnerability, within all of these too, some governments, particularly the Malian government, came out to say, this is what is happening, this is what we want. So each of these, while the warring factions, the insurgent groups, the extremist groups, the terrorist groups were coming out with different information, the government will also come out with its own. At times, the citizens are at the center. So what are we going to believe? Meanwhile, within the information environment, there are issues already, issue of hunger, unemployment, so much poverty. All of these are there, and even social exclusion. In the case of Mali, not the northern Mali, end of eastern Mali, most of them are already been fighting about being excluded from governance. So they've been fighting all of that and even clamoring for a new state of Azawad. You go to Timbuktu, Gao, all of that places. Unfortunately, that became aggravated with the death of Gaddafi after NATO's operation in that place. So the death of Gaddafi created more fragility, more problems filled, because majority of Gaddafi's fighters, even some regular soldiers, but more importantly the militia, some of the other groups or units he has kept somewhere using to fight here and there, they all became free for all. They know the terrain, they understand the terrain, they have weapons, they are intelligent, they are trained fighters, but now jobless because of the death of Gaddafi. No one to pay them again. We want mess. In Ethiopia, I met some who deserted. Some of these militiamen who were working for Gaddafi who deserted. I met them at the AU headquarters for a program, and we were just interacting. Two of them told me that as at that time, if AU pays $1,500 or $1,000 per day or per whatever, or weekly allowances, whatever they receive, that Gaddafi paid 6,000, like 3 times or 4 times bigger. So the question he threw back at me, instead of answering me, was that, which one will you take? Which side will you stay? So I have more money. I say, but how do you enjoy yourself? You are fighting every time. You are in the bush killing people and shedding blood. How do you spend the money? How do you enjoy yourself? So you only collect so much money. What do you do with it? He said, don't worry, you will know. So when Gaddafi died, that created the vacuum more. So all of these fighters moved into where we know today as the Sahel. So they became regular fighters. They became instigators. They became sponsors. Unfortunately, just like mercenaries, or they are already now mercenaries, they came with their weapons, sophisticated weapons. They know the environment, familiarity with the terrain. So they use guerrilla warfare tactics, which they are already used to. So they know the terrain, they know the places. Now they have the targets. In fact, unfortunately, now they have legitimate targets, because the vulnerability of the northern Mali, vulnerability of all of that place, the fragility, the tension-filled environment was already there for them to exploit. And eventually, that was what happened. In that place. So Mali had one of those problems. Then another one is state-controlled media served as a crucial instrument for these regimes to disseminate their own narratives and defend themselves against other narratives. Apart from the government, another key actor are the armed non-state actors. These are the people I just mentioned, the militia men, the insurgents groups, the extremist groups. All of these are leveraging within the information environment, and they are using it to their own benefit. You see Al-Qaeda, Hakim, you see Islamic States in Greater Sahara, all of that place from Libya, part of Algeria, coming to Mauritania. Now, even now, someone mentioned in the question, as I don't know if it's Hindu or Aisha, that even now the hinterland, because that's why presently now, even the AU and ECOWAS, they are wary of such things not to move into both Senegal and Ghana. Because if it enters Ghana, you already know that all of that is all gone, because Togo, Benin Republic, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Cote d'Ivoire is another keg of gunpowder, also waiting to explode now. So all of this must be prevented. So the second key actor, they are the armed non-state actors. Then we also have the international organizations and peacekeeping missions. That's another actor, and they are doing it very well, but now we are not seeing so much answers, because there is so much misinformation, there is so much malinformation. Because now, if they see NATO, they see EU, they see AU, they see UN, it is believed, the people believe that they are coming to defend the French interest. They are coming to do the same thing. And they have been misinformed about these organizations. They are coming to defend themselves, or NATO coming to defend France, or EU coming to defend France. They are coming to exploit your resources. They are coming to take away everything you have. They will make you poorer. Already you are poor. But they are not talking about the responsibility of the government, even in Africa itself. You understand it now? They are not talking about that responsibility. So, but the international organizations, they have been doing their own, and they are trying their own. Even NATO and EU, they are trying to counter the misinformation and malinformation in the Sahel. Civil society organizations are also actors. NGOs, they are all actors in this, but in most cases, even some of those NGOs have been bought over. They have been bought over by China, by Russia, and they are funding them to be raising issues that will benefit these countries. China and Russia, against the state and what the people want to hear. They even go to the extent and bringing people together and claiming capacity building workshops. They are claiming helping you to equip you into some vocational works, bricklaying, tailoring, or anything. Buy motorcycles for them. So they are claiming they are building their capacities. Meanwhile, they are indoctrinating them, they are misinforming them, and they are using them. against the government, against the state, so changing their public opinion. Media outlets, they are also the media, they are also actors. So what are the sorry how did I press? Sorry. So media is one of the actors too. So what are the means? They use communication techniques, both traditional and contemporary forms. Traditional in the sense that TV and radio. In that region, even the poorest in that place. In fact, if also you go to northern part of Nigeria, you go into Niger, Chad, Mali, Niger, and you go deeper, every person has a transistor radio, even beyond phones. And they listen to this, they bring it to the local language. The Chinese, the Russians have sponsored them, they've given them so much money. So they have transistor radio, and these are all done using their own local languages. So the information effectively gets to them. So those are the means. They even elevated the literacy rates in nations such as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Radio serves as an essential medium conveying this information, and they come in very serious material. Even now, they are printing materials in their local languages. And radio is very cost effective in doing all of this. So they've been using the radio, they've been using all of this, and there are so many stations in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. There are so many. In fact, in Mali alone, there are over 400 radio stations, and they use them to get across to people. Those are the means. There's also the digital and the social media, which we know, the Facebook, the WhatsApp, the Twitter. But what is more used is the WhatsApp and the Facebook. Not many people go to Telegram and WhatsApp and Twitter all the time, but only the most educated. Then there's also propaganda and psychological operations, where they use advanced propaganda, psychological operations to subvert state authority, and at the same time still come back to say they want to help them. These are all sponsored by China, by Russia as well. Then there is public diplomacy and strategic communication. In this one, in reaction to the proliferation of insurgency propaganda, governments and international organizations have allocated resources to public diplomacy and strategic communication initiatives designed to challenge the extremists, and even UN at the same time, they are doing all of this to avert a lot of problems. Their ends quickly, they shaping public opinion, shaping their opinion against the government and against the Western governments. They are just changing the public opinion, changing the narration, talking more evil about the West, instead of they've forgotten all of the good things the West has done, but they come to change the public opinion. Then, apart from that, I remember something. If you go to in Mali, in Burkina Faso, with all of the lies they have told them, then that has now breached a serious public sentiment, not just against France, but against the West generally. And that informed the reason why Niger had to say US should leave Niger. Or US should move all its troops. What they have done to France in both Mali, in Burkina Faso, and Niger. That's what they are trying to do, and that's what they have done in all of this. So, concluding this, the information landscape in the Sahel is influenced by a variety of actors, each with unique goals, utilizing both traditional and modern communication methods. So national governments, insurgent factions, multinational entities, and civil society organizations compete for narrative control, utilizing media platforms to sway public opinion, to establish legitimacy, attract adherents, and mold worldwide perceptions, either positively or negatively. The complexities of disinformation campaigns and skepticism towards foreign entities highlight the necessity of strategic communication in this unstable environment. So there is need for strategic communication tailored, well informed, deeply rooted with issues and information, although it's a serious problem now. But I think it's one of those things that must be actively done now. Then as the information landscape evolves, comprehending the interactions among these entities and their goals is essential for addressing the political and security concerns in the Sahel. Thank you for listening to this first.
So we're going to go into question and answers. Maybe I will throw the first one, and then you can. Shegu, considering your study about the environment, and we know that the average population size in Africa in terms of demographically looking at age, there's a lot of young people.
Yes.
So between especially 15 and 25. We would like you to tell us the environment in terms of who uses what, because I don't do TikTok. You can find me there. And maybe you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. And there's so many of them. Can you tell us the one where we find the young people, the elderly people, and which ones are we likely to be looking at in terms of the manipulation?
Yes, thank you. The entire social media is being used, but for the youth population, because Africa has a very strong and mass population of youth, ranging between, I'll put it between 15 and 60 or 55. Africa has about 80% of that population presently. So it's a strong mass movement which has to be controlled, particularly the use of information. For WhatsApp and Facebook, let me take it first. Facebook, you have the mass population of the entire youth. Me, I don't use Facebook. I have it, but I don't use it all the time. Because you see a lot of comments, you see a lot of pictures, you see a lot of heinous things. So the mass of the population of the youth between 15 and 25, 80% to 90%, they are using Facebook. I was very, very surprised. I brought a small palm top to this program, pretending to be using it for my presentation. 4 days ago, my children, one 14, one 13, one 11, and the last one just 6. So I saw them on Facebook. So I said, what is this? A Facebook, Daddy? I said, face? Why are you using Facebook? Why don't you face your books? Face your own books. Read it. So why are you using Facebook? So they are different. I said, hey, so face your books. Don't Facebook. Did you ever see me on Facebook? Even my friend will say, I sent something to you on Facebook. I say, I don't use Facebook. I don't like it. It makes you vulnerable. A lot of things. So a lot of information is passed through Facebook. Take, for example, prior to Nigeria's 2023 general elections, the Facebook was seriously used, bombarded. So there are over 80% of the youth in the Sahel, even up to part of Nigeria, as mentioned. Facebook has a mass of population of the people. So strategically, Facebook is being used. There was even a time when the Nigerian government accused Facebook too, just in recent times, that, okay, they are indoctrinating, they are using. So Facebook won over 80% of the youth population, ranging from 15 to 25 or say 30. WhatsApp, both the youth and the young adults, maybe between 50 and 100, about 60 or thereabout, and even young, they use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is also another part of the social media that is seriously used. Then, and that I'll put that at about 50 to 60%. But all class of the ages or age grades, they use the WhatsApp. But also the youth, about 60% of the youth, those who have phones, what do we call these ones? Android phones or smartphones, they use it. Many people don't know how to operate so many things on those phones. That's another very serious thing about this social media. Many people don't know how to use the phones, many other functions in the phone, but they know how to use WhatsApp and they know how to operate Facebook on their phones. Those are the two things they do. The Twitter, I don't tweet. I don't like Twitter. I have a Twitter account. At times, my wife will ask that you don't even tweet. I will say tweet for who or to who, or tweet on what issue. I have a lot of things to do than tweeting. But you now see about 35 to 40% of the youth, they go on Twitter. They go on Twitter, raise so many issues. In fact, the Twitter was more used to up to about 80% prior to Nigeria's general elections, and 4 or 5 months after the election, the Twitter, if you enter the Twitter and mention something on one candidate or the other, particularly where the youth were more dominated, where they were talking more about Peter Obi representing the Labour Party, and you come there to say Peter Obi did this one, or you say any wrong thing against Peter Obi, the way they will bombard you is as if you are there physically. They will tear you into pieces on the Twitter. So Twitter became more popular in Nigeria prior to that election and after the election till now. And the same thing goes on in places like Niger, in Mali, only for the informed, only those who are educated, they use the Twitter more. And even those who are not educated now, they've trained themselves. I can go to Aisha, I don't know how to use the Twitter. Once they get it, quickly, they are addicted to it. And they'll be tweeting anything. So Russia, China, they decided to work more on those areas, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Twitter. Telegram, I have it, I don't go there. Telegram, I don't go there. So few people use Telegram. And I want to believe that what I've seen around across the Sahel, particularly in Nigeria, is that elderly people use Twitter, but not all the time, only for maybe serious meetings, group meetings, or students association meetings, although they can also pass any information through the Telegram, but Telegram is not fully or totally used in that axis or in that area. But Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, those three are very serious. And traditionally, the TV and the radio, of course, not many homes or houses, they have a television. But radio, please. Somebody who cannot write his name in the Sahel, even in northern Nigeria, can operate the transistor radio more than you and I. They use it, they know the station they are tuning to, and everything is relayed, conveyed, passed through their local languages. And you will get the information effectively. At times, the information you don't know or you have not had, they hear first before this our class of the society. They hear first, and they do that through the radio, which is traditional way of doing it. Then the digital and the social media, all of that comes through phones, through social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you can have more questions from him.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you presented the complexity of the information environment, and I understood that there is an anti-Western, anti-French narrative up to a point. So I was wondering if we, let's say, fight the enemy in the same terms. If we make a local radio station, a local TV station, producing content in the local language, is it something that you think could produce, a counter-narrative? Is it something that we will have legitimacy? Because I understand that if it's on BBC, if it's Radio France or something else, it lacks legitimacy to the local population. So what I'm saying, is it just the local content that is it a factor that can change the game? That somebody will come, a local, an African whatever news agency, an African radio station, produce local news for the local population in the local context. Is it something that will have a potential? And is it something that the local governments will allow or not?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's at times to fight evil, you also may deploy very evil way of doing it. The Russians and the Chinese, they have so deeply gotten themselves into the local, mass of the locals. In fact, now you go to places like Niger, you go to places like Burkina Faso, you go to places like Mali, even some part of northern Nigeria, they have gone to the extent of using local. I think it was Indu who mentioned it, or Aisha in one of the comments too. They've gone to the extent of using local leaders, local chiefs, youth leaders, and they get to them, they give them money, they can even take, for example, in Mali, in Niger, they will come, bring a pack of phones, like 500 phones, a pack of phones to them. They bring a pack of, so you gather your people who want to talk to them. Instead of talking about educating them or doing that for them, they will talk about or claim capacity building. Is capacity building giving me phone? Is it capacity building? Are you building my capacity? Or you are extending and entrenching my poverty? So they will give them phones. And these are people who say, phones, beautiful things. So they are happy. So they collect phones. And they begin to teach them how to use the phones. Then they begin to send messages to them. And these local leaders will be translating, transforming some of these messages for them. Then they give them transistor radio. Every Fulani man, I'm sorry to use this language, every Fulani man, every Hausa person, which cut across from all northern Mali, and 80% of Nigerians are Hausas. So all through from Mali, Niger, part of Chad, northern Nigeria, you will see that all of them, the one in the bush, herdsmen, or the pastoralists going around with their livestock, they have transistor radios, not one, not two, in their pockets, despite that they are in the bush. So they hear the news faster, even than us, who should be creating the news. So we should get to them, get to the locals, create TV stations. Those 500 radio stations, 400, so many in all of Mali, in Niger, the Chinese gave them money to establish them. Some is a small room like this. If this is big, maybe where those equipments or gadgets are. They go there, they keep talking every day, they are funded, they are well fed, they give them money, then they bring people, come and speak, take money, speak in their languages. They get to them. So in fighting them, yes, part of it, radio stations can also be created. Government should also be targeted. Why the people are, because their public opinion, they've reshaped it, they've changed it. The West are coming to take. Let me give you the Niger's example. Niger, Russians came, told Nigerians or the Nigerian government that you have uranium in mass. In fact, Niger has the highest deposits of uranium in Africa. So you have enough uranium, yet you are poor. 187th on the Human Development Index report of the UN. 187. So you don't have anything. And you have uranium. This is a big thing for you. Use your uranium to get this. France have been exploiting you for how many centuries or many decades. But we will give you a better package. We'll pay you double or more, or you determine your price. Then we'll keep paying. That sounds good to them. But the question is, how sustainable is the good that you are bringing now? How sustainable? So we can also target them from that information perspective to say there's no difference. They could even be more evil than the West you are asking to go. Again, the perception that, if NATO comes or EU comes now, they are coming to defend, particularly in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger, you are coming to defend France. So we don't want to listen to them. No, this is NATO, this is EU. We are coming for your well-being. We are coming for good things to be done. So leave anything. This is NATO. This is EU. This is UN or whatever. So we are coming from that platform, not anything. So we should also exploit that and say, okay, we are coming as an organization. We have this package for you. We want to do this for you. And they'll be using this, Russia will say, okay, your America or NATO, they have defense pact or agreements with you and all of that. Look at it. America has a defense system in capital of Niger and in Agadez. Now, Russia have been moving in to build another defense system for them the air defense system. So what have they told them? Initially, they began that using Wagner Group. Now they are creating African troops. That's what they are doing. So to counter them, we use the same means, but more effectively in tackling such means. So we can use local radios, we can use local leaders, we can use local chiefs to get to the mass of the people, and the information will get to them. And at that level now, like somebody told us in Niger, that they may even be confused. When Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso decided to opt out of ECOWAS, Articles 90 and 91 of the ECOWAS Revised Treaty of 1991 states that for any member to withdraw its membership, you must indicate that in writing 1 year ahead. First condition. Second condition, within the 1 year intent in writing of withdrawing or exiting, you are still a very original, potent member of the association or organization. In other words, you must comply with all the rules and regulations of the organization, pay your access dues, every other thing. In other words, nothing has happened even within that 1 year that you say you want to withdraw. So you are still there actively. So you must obey. And thirdly, until after 1 year, ECOWAS, head of governments and states now can decide to meet and discuss your application after 1 year. Discuss your application, whether to accept or not, and whatever issues you have raised will go and be fact-checked and say these are the reasons before that can be allowed or disallowed. But one, these three countries have announced they are exiting or withdrawing or withdrawal from the ECOWAS before they wrote. So ab initio, nothing happened. So to ECOWAS, they still believe those three are there. Immediately after they did all of that, Niger and Nigeria plus the Lake Chad Basin are countries that includes Cameroon, Chad, then Benin was brought in because Benin also shares very long borders with Nigeria. So Benin Republic was brought in into the what we now call the Multinational Joint Task Force that is located in the capital of Chad. So, and they've been performing operations along the Lake Chad region, this thing. Immediately they announced their withdrawal. Niger, that was part of that Multinational Joint Task Force, also began to withdraw from the Multinational Joint Task Force, claiming they don't have operational and logistics to participate in it. And gradually now they've stopped participating in the activities. And in the last 6 months, that was what aggravated some attacks, kidnapping along that region. And I've said earlier that Niger shares the longest border with Nigeria. Unfortunately, there is also cultural, demographic, and even political connection between northern part of Nigeria and Nigerian government or Nigerians. So all of these are seriously interconnected, and these are the ways we can reach the people, because this evil of misinformation, malinformation, Russia and China, they have done more evil than the evils on ground that created the evil we have now.
Thank you. We can take more questions. But just just to add what he has said, Niger has come back to the MJTF about 2 weeks ago. So they are back to the forum fighting insurgency in the Lake Chad area. Just to add to what he just said.
And that came with because 2 months ago we advised the government that they should use diplomatic rapprochement now to meet Niger. So within that, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nigeria, I was also on the committee when we advised that, but the ministry also went there to meet with their own this thing in Niger, and they arranged. And that was how the Chief of Defense Staff had to make like 2 visits to that place, talk to them, prepare the ground and all of that. So that has been going on because strategically and for security reasons, Nigeria cannot allow Niger to go away because of that strategic positioning, porous border, and the fight against insurgency and Islamists. Particularly now, ISWAP is gaining more hand on that axis because Boko Haram is weakened. But Islamists, the ISWAP now they are doing so. Nigeria needs that. So thank you for the information, Indy.
Thank you, Joshua, for the presentation. Actually, it was a quite insightful presentation.
Thank you.
So, because our event has also included in the title other misinformation, not only Russian and Chinese, I want to ask you about Iran. If there are any signs of Iranian influence in the Sahel, and also if you want to comment about the role of Ukraine in supporting rebels in Mali, at least. Thank you so much.
Well, in any case, I want to believe that whatever Ukraine does, although the government of Ukraine also made that comment that they are supporting the rebel groups against those governments. And the reason that they claimed was that one of the reasons, or some of the reasons involve Russian involvement, Wagner involvement in their government, in their activities, because it's also established that even these Wagner groups are also selling weapons. They're selling weapons. So there is also proliferation of arms within the Sahel. And those weapons are coming. They are using all the informal means. Look at what they did in Central African Republic. Look at what, despite that, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have claimed that one of the reasons they gave exiting ECOWAS was that there is insecurity everywhere and ECOWAS has not been able to tackle it. Which insecurity? How did that come to be? Are you the only person affected by terrorist activities, all of this? But eventually, if you look at it now, in 2023, the report, terrorist report, global terrorist report says that Burkina Faso had the highest number of deaths from terrorism, insurgency, extremism, different attacks in that area. But they are lowering it. And Russia keeps bringing in so many armor tanks, so many weapons for them, even through Wagner. In fact, this year alone, in the first and second quarter, the death is so much in Burkina Faso. In other words, the insecurity they are claiming to exit the ECOWAS is the reverse, because Burkina Faso is more insecure now than before. Mali is unstable both politically and economically, not to also talk about the impact or the effect of this misinformation and all of these things. So Ukraine did that, and that's why the Ukrainian ambassador was summoned in Mali and expelled. The same thing happened in Niger. So I want to believe they came out as to use that, if practically they are using it or they are sponsoring or supporting rebel groups. That's one thing on the one side. On the other side, it's a war time between Russia and Ukraine. So it's a war propaganda to also attack Russia. So these are all parts of their own game plan or fighting Russia back. Because in those places, Russians are also even recruiting Africans now into the group and be training them and be giving them arms and ammunition. These are the issues.
Thank you for your presentation. First of all, I'd like to ask you a question about next year, the first half of next year. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Just ask you your opinion about the fact that next year there will be, let's say, on the market, the Tesla phone. Tesla phone is nothing else than a cellular telephone which use solar battery and use the Starlinks as possible connections or to communicate, I would say. Do you think that this could be a sort of a mitigate element against the disinformation, or let's say, since he is controlled by Elon Musk, in other words, or this could aggravate the situation?
Okay, it's a good effort if such can come into the market in those places, because of course there's also the problem of energy crisis, I mean electricity generation and all of that. You know, a few months ago, Nigeria cut off supply of electricity to Niger, and that caused a lot of problems. So a lot of people were affected in Niger, in particularly. The same thing in northern Mali, eastern Mali, then the same thing even part of Chad. So if such phones can come, you will need less effort in looking for places to charge it. You may not be so carrying chargers around and be doing all of that. In other words, everybody will now have unassuming way of listening, of getting access to information. So it will go a long way. So the distribution, the targets, the ways by which will be done, that will be decided. If that is followed, then this will begin to undo the misinformation, and more importantly, the malinformation, which have been so harmful, which has been full of falsehood, which have been full of lies and misinforming people in so many ways. So it will go a long way. It will be a positive impact, but it has to be done quickly. It has to be done quickly and seriously, because the Chinese, the Russians, they have done a lot of harm in that sense, using information in different ways. Like the other part of this paper that I did in another way, I wouldn't know when that will be done. I also touched about the ecosystem of the information, what they are using. The Chinese are using the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, creating it, building it. In fact, now Chinese are sponsoring establishment of radio stations. Russians are sponsoring establishment of radio stations. Then they will go and be distributing ways by which you can listen to them. So they are doing all of this. So those things, phones which will use solar or recharge itself or all of that in that environment, will be very good, and people will love it. And again, so we need to also decide the content of the information. So using the same means, and the goal, the ends will be, we are targeting to reform this society. We are bringing good things for you. Manage your things. Whatever you need, you can negotiate. Negotiate what we want. We talk it over, and that will bring a positive impact and moving forward positive. So it's a good decision in the right direction.
Before you come in, let me a bit contribute to what you said.
Yes.
You are an optimist here. I think I'm a bit pessimistic about it. First is that I don't know how much the phone is going to cost. Will the people be able to buy it? We need to understand that. Secondly, we don't know what the phone will cost. Will people in that part of Africa be able to afford it? We know how much an Apple phone costs. So we don't know how much this is going to cost. How many people can afford that? That's one. Secondly, if the Musk we know is going to float the phone that will be acting like X, where all loose are left bound and there are no control. I'm telling you, some countries, probably countries like Nigeria, can clamp down on it, because if it will come to destabilize the regime, countries will clamp on it. At least we understood what happened in Brazil. When Brazil came hard on X, they have to pay the fine. So let's be cautious that if the phone comes and it becomes a tool to regime destabilization, some countries where such process will destabilize their country will ban it. But where it will aid, maybe like Mali, Burkina Faso, if it will aid the military regime to still grab and hold on to power, they will support it.
Thank you very much. Let me try to tie together a few strings. Now, Indu was talking about a youth bulge, which suggests that the youth could be a potential target audience. Let's call it a technical terms target audience. I would say it may be an audience for messaging. Yourself have said that we certainly need to distinguish between individual members, some of which has colonial legacy. Most of us at NATO don't. and you suggested that we should make a careful distinction between us coming as an organization beyond individual member states.
Yes.
And also, you said that we are coming here and communicating a package. Okay? Now, two questions maybe. One is, if the youth is a potential audience for pro-democratic messaging, would you further break it down, and how would you select? This is one. Who do you go through, or do you target sort of a massive youth targeted campaign? The other question, what is the package? What could be the package that could be attractive to the audience? Now, NATO is a Paul Mill institution. It's largely about security. It's also about humanitarian response and other civilian aspects, but largely about security. Now, we have as the West, we have other tools in our reservoir, which is the European Union, which is more about development, economy, etc. Right? So we can leverage these tools intelligently and come with a different package using this one and another package to achieve a different objective. Okay, so I've said enough. Maybe your insights, if you have them, on these particular things. Thank you.
You know, why the youth is a potential target is that we've just said it, that the population of the youth in that, particularly Africa generally, is massive. So it's massive, and that's why the youth should always be the first target. Secondly, let's use Burkina Faso as a good example. Before the coup that brought in the military government in Burkina Faso, the then president Condé, he ignored the plight of the people. He ignored the plight of the people. So much poverty, unemployment issues, so many, in fact, no social provisions or social amenities and all of that. And he kept coming for election and all of that. When ECOWAS came to Burkina Faso to say military government not accepted, you have to revert to democratic rule, they started throwing bottles. They started throwing bottles at them, throwing stones at them, throwing water sachets at them. That, where were you when this man was ruling us wrongly? Where were you when he was perpetuating poverty and spreading hunger? Where were you? Did you caution him? Did you correct him? Did you come just in form of preventive diplomacy? So did you do all of that? You didn't. But now that he has been removed and we have the military, then you are coming. The problem is that immediately they announced that there was a coup and the coup leader came out to face them. The Burkinabés went to the streets. 80% of the youth were on the streets jubilating. They are not jubilating because they have a military government against a democratic government. No. They were jubilating at the change. So their expectation is that we just need somebody from this man who is not responsive to our plights, to our conditions, to our problems, but living large, enjoying himself, so, and coming for election every time. But now the military has come, so they were jubilating, not because they had the military, but they thought their condition, their situation will improve. So in doing that, youths are potential target audience. Then the package, development, EU, humanitarian assistance and other things, NATO, they complement each other. They complement very well. So only that we just need to repackage the story, repackage the ends, repackage what we are telling them. They want to hear that. Not that you go and be sharing money, not that. But we should target the youth population. the government, he was saying something earlier too, was in the morning. The governments need proper reorientation. If you are talking to military governments in this, for example, the ECOWAS wrote to Burkinabe government, Malian government, they are not even receiving information again. So they only write. So now the diplomacy and rapprochement Nigeria is using now is, I think this Nigerian military junta now will listen. And that's what is coming or causing all of this now. Then again, the chairman of ECOWAS, the Nigerian president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is also fostering a very great relationship with the new president of Senegal. That, okay, prevail on those three countries to return. Prevail on them, work on them, and so that we'll now see how we move ahead as one, as ECOWAS. So there's also need to sensitize national governments. But there are national governments that doesn't have listening ears, like the Malian government. They don't listen. But at least this Nigerian government now is listening. So Nigeria has used rapprochement, new diplomacy, using envoys or using some ambassadors who had been friends. We've served together in one place. So we've been using all of that avenue diplomatically, and it's now yielding results. It's now yielding the results. So we want to see how we can move forward, how even the Nigerian government can speak to either Malian government or the Burkinabe government, or even now using the new president of Senegal, who has that personality, the clout, and the energy to say, this is working, let's do it this way. And myself and Aisha were talking over the tea, the break there, and we're talking about his approach, which have been very effective, talking to France, respect us, we respect you, equal partnership. We can come anywhere you have challenges that we can come into you and we can support in that area. And these are not coming with conditions and conditionalities that will now even restrict access, because one of the other efforts that China has used to entrench itself in Africa is coming in the beginning to say, take loan, no interest. Loan, zero interest. After some time, just take it, pay later. You understand? So this was gradually the way China began to enter. Then later, okay, give all infrastructure. We want to take loan. No, don't take loan. What do you want to use the loan for? To build rail, to build these institutions. We can do that for you. We'll come and do that. We'll give you the cost. You do this. So these are all different avenues, different, as against what they claim that the West, we say, okay, development assistance, or you want to take loan, these are the conditions, conditionalities. You have to fulfill this. You have to do this one. Why do you need to put restrictions or blockade on something you call assistance? Why? So if all of that is gradually removed, or those stumbling blocks, those restrictions are technically reduced to proper understanding, then you say, when the EU say they were coming during the Ghanaian election last time, I was one of the observers, just like in Senegal too, when the Ghanaian EU came and said, we want to support in your election and all of that, the Ghanaian government refused it. That don't give us anything for our election. We have budget for it. We have prepared for it. We will do it. But if you want to do anything for us in Ghana, invest it. Invest it. Just invest it so that we say, there's EU presence, investment, EU presence, you are doing this, EU investment, or this one. It can employ the mass of the people, not all of them, few people, but from there it trickles down. The information goes around. They are doing so well. This is happening. And that's how one can repackage the story and begin to tell it in the proper way again. Because if you go to a place like Nigeria, in fact, go to Luanda, go to Nigeria, even in Lagos, go to some other places, even small stores on the Lagos Island, in Lagos, on the island where they have marketplace, business investments, in Mandilas. The Chinese have stores now, small stores that normally an average Nigerian should have and pay a little to rent the shop or those outlets. But now the Chinese are taking them. So me, I'm aware that, and that's why in Nigeria, between 2023 and even August this year, the average Nigerians, those poor people, or call them hoodlums who are angry with that act, they put fire, massive building, they put, if you know the number of fire outbreak on the Lagos Island between last year and early this, even till about August, September, they deliberately go there, put fire, so that those stores burn down. So there is even a clandestine approach against the Chinese, who are even taking the small means of livelihood, small businesses, outlets that they, as Nigerians, are doing, but you came and be bringing big money and say we want to take over this place, so we will not accept it. So EU, NATO complements each other, development assistance, target government, target people, and before you know it, we repackage the story and good thing will be coming.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. My name is Enrico.
Thank you.
I start from your motto, so less Facebook and more face the books. And it looks like we are looking more on like the importance of misinformation, disinformation, so this kind of dehumanizing the contacts between people. Whereas our competitors or like other foreign actors, they are like betting more and investing more on humanizing the content, considering the fact that in African countries, people are still like investing a lot in man-to-man, woman-to-woman contacts, and people are believing more in what the wise men say rather than looking on the media. And he's kind of a fact checker, the wise man, like the one that stays like in the communities. And this was well understood. So my point is, and I would like just to understand your reaction, everything goes back to buying and being bought. Like if I go there with a cell phone and I provide you with a cell phone, so I kind of answer to your needs for having something, I get your allegiance. And then the second point is like, is there a tendency to believe on what the leadership say just because there is a kind of, let's say, fear or respect, diplomatically speaking, towards the leadership? So what they say is what is the truth. But isn't there also like a kind of misunderstanding on this point? So maybe I should use what I feel and I should use my intelligence and my eyes, which is something that brings me like the reality in front of myself, and the human context to double check what is conveyed through the media or like through the speakers or other things. Thank you.
Yes. Using your eyes, using your intelligence to discern the truth or fact check is one thing. Then the second thing, looking at the population of the Sahel, another thing is, do you know what I want? Do you know what's on ground? Do you know there is already an existing fragile situation, tension-filled situation, so much hunger, ill feelings, bad feelings against the government. And again, you now see the Chinese using the government on the ground, as they have done. You see the Russians and the Chinese using them in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger. They are using them. Why are they not even doing what they are doing in Guinea-Conakry? Why? And why did the Guinea-Conakry government did not say we are leaving ECOWAS, or we are sending France away, or we are doing this? So fact-checking, using your intelligence or seeing it as they are, there are so many lies being told, but they use the means by which everyone will hear it. Radio, TV. But the phones, if at all you are bringing phones, they use local chiefs, local leaders to get through to people. Not that you even meet mass of the people and address them. No. No. So you just have to get a very organized way of informing, of working on the government, of doing programs, of saying this is what should be done, or what is happening here is not true. This is the truth, and this is the way it should go. And in doing that, the people will become we'll be able to reach the people, we'll be able to get at the people, we'll be able to say what is right to them, because they are feeding them with lies. They are feeding them with the lies using mass media, using the mass of the media, and in some cases using government, using big people in the society, using youth leaders, and using even local chiefs and heads of communities who they listen to. You know, in African context, they listen to their leaders. Even when you say something now, they will go and confirm from their leaders what they were saying. Is it true? Even if it was true that they said, that you just said now, if their leaders say no, it's not true, you know you cannot change it. And that's the situation there. And that's the situation there. Thank you so much. Thank you.